So you can keep any GSM of paper which is above 200. So I will be using a 300 GSM paper. So these are the gouache papers. So I'll be using these sheets. These are 300 GSM cold pressed papers from Zen Sangam, and these are gouache sheets. So the reference for today's painting is this one. So I made this on a spiral bound notebook, and this is an A6 size as well. So we will be recreating this, and we will be painting this today. You can what you can do is you can use a masking tape to secure the edges. Like I like to have a cleaner edge, so I'll just use a masking tape. And if you want, then you can skip this step. I hope the lighting and everything is okay and everything is visible properly. And do let me know if I need to zoom it a little. And I'll be using gouache paints. If you have acrylic paints, then you can use acrylic paints as well, or else poster paints would work as well. So I'll be using gouache paints, and the brushes, like keep brushes of like which are flat and round brushes, and you need detailer brush as well for making the stems. So I'll just show you all the brushes and the numbers so that you can figure out which one I'll be using. All right, so the gouache paints that I'll be using are these ones. These are the gouache. If you have any other gouache, gouache of any brand would do. So we will be using just a few colors, like you can see in the painting. I've used 3-4 colors only. So I will be using yellow ochre and brown, white and black. So these are the 4 colors. Basically we'll be using these colors. And for the brushes, I'll be using, I don't know what size brush this is, but any brush of around 4 or 6 size would work. This is a synthetic brush. I'll be using this, and this is a flat brush of size 4. So I'll be using this for painting the background, and detailer brush. And this is a size 5x0. So these are the brushes that I'll be using. Keep a jar of water handy, and piece of tissue paper, and don't forget your palette. So we can start. So what I'll be using, the first color that I'll be using is yellow ochre. So yellow ochre, I guess you will find this color. This color is very common. You would find this color in almost every acrylic poster and gouache set. So otherwise, if you don't have a yellow, like ochre yellow shade, then you can mix yellow and any shade of brown, and just add a little bit of white in it, and that's how you can make it on your own. So I'll just take a little bit of ochre yellow. I'm really sorry, the palette is a little messy, but this I used ochre yellow here, so I'll just pick out the color and place it.
A minute, Shreya. Can you like zoom in a little bit once you start painting so that they have a better view?
Yeah, surely. How do I zoom this?
You can pull it down a bit if it's possible. Yeah.
All right.
Participants, please provide a thumbs up if this is enough for you. Or when she paints even more minute details, we'll ask her to zoom in a little more, okay? Yeah. All right, Shreya, good to go.
All right, I hope everything is visible. The lighting is okay.
Yes, everything's fine.
All right. Okay, so this is the yellow ochre shade that I picked out, and I'll add a little bit of white to it because we need a a really light yellow ochre shade. So I'll just use a little bit of white paint. I'll mix it with the yellow ochre. Okay, so the consistency of the paint should be a little flowy. Don't keep it too much thick because we need to blend the colors very nicely. So we need a little flowy consistency. So once I'm done with mixing the color, I'll start by painting this side of the paper. We are painting this light because here you want because this is the wall part. Okay, so here there is no shadow, so I'll just paint it like so. All right, so we are done with this part of the painting, and we will be using a much darker shade of brown for this side. This is where the shadow falls. So for the shadow, the shade that I'll be using is the same mixture of paint, the one that we used for the wall. There is a little bit of paint left over. So what I'll do is I'll use a different shade of brown. This is called burnt umber. So this is basically um, how do I explain the shade? This is sort of earthy, and this has a undertone of like this. It has an undertone of black. Like I don't know how to explain it, but this is the normal shade of brown that you get, and this is the shade which has a red undertone to it, and this is a burnt umber. So we want this shade. You can also add a little bit of black to your normal brown shade, and you will achieve the desired color. If you have any queries regarding the shade I'm using, if you are unable to follow it, then you can ask me. I'll show you how to make the shade if you don't have it already. All right, so I'll just add a little bit of um, yellow ochre to it. We want a slight yellowish tint to the shadow part. Yeah, the same shade that we used for painting the wall. That there was a little bit of paint left over. So what I did was I just added a little bit of burnt umber to it because we want this side of the wall, that is the part where the shadow is appearing. So we want the part to be a little darker. So that is why we added burnt umber. The gouache that I'm using is the Himi gouache. You can also use Neva Palettes gouache. The set has a burnt umber shade too. All right. So with this, you can also add a little bit of white to it, and just add a little bit of white. We want the shade to be like darker than the one that we used previously, so that it is distinguishable, the part which has a shadow. Yeah, this is the shade. This is a shade that we achieved by mixing these three shades. We mix a little yellow to burnt umber. No, the previous shade that we used for painting this wall part. For this, I used white and mixed a little bit of yellow ochre. And the leftover paint I used, I just added a little bit of burnt umber to it. So that's how we achieved this darker shade of paint. And now we will start painting the shadow part too, and we need to blend these two parts nicely. So make sure that the paint is a little wet already, but mine is dried up. No issues, we will just reactivate the paint and blend these two shades. Now to blend these two shades, what I will be doing is I'll take the same brush and I'll just run the brush across the part where these two color merges, and we want the color to activate, and so that we can blend it nicely. Just wet your brush a little, and this is how you need to blend the two shades. And you can make the previous shade again, and if you have it already, then that's even better. You can just run your brush a little and blend these two shades. So we want this painting, the part till we painted, we want this part to be dried completely before we start painting the shadows of the plant. Let me just show the reference to you once again so that you can follow up. So this is the shadow part, and before painting this we need the background to be completely dried up. Mine is already dried up, and I will start by making the shadows. So for the shadows for the plant part, the one that I used for making this part of the ball, we will be using the same shade. There is a little leftover paint, so we will be using this paint, and we will paint the shadows of the plant. So
Shreya,
yeah,
just a minute. I think there are like few new people who joined us just now. Can you like repeat what you've done so far as a summary?
yeah, surely. So basically, we are painting this painting. We are painting this one, and this is the reference. So you can see this is basically a wall. The background is a wall, and this side of the wall is the original paint, and this side is the the shadow of the because this is basically a sunset sort of scene. So this is the shadow part, and this is the normal wall paint. So what I did was, for the wall, I mixed a little bit of white into yellow ochre shade, and that's how I got this light yellow ochre shade. And I simply painted this part using flat brush. And for the shadow part, what I did was, I had some of the leftover paint that we used for the the wall, and I just added a little bit of burnt umber shade. Or if you don't have burnt umber, don't worry, you can use a normal any brown shade you have, and add a little bit of black. Don't add too much. So that is how I painted this side of the wall. So this is basically the shadow part, and I simply run a wet brush over between the two, shades for them to blend. So that's how I blended the two colors. And I will be painting these the shadows of this plant too. So these are the shadow basically. So again, for painting the shadow, we will be using the exact same shade that we used for painting this part of the wall where the shadow is falling. So that is it basically. That is how far we did it. So I guess we can start with painting the shadow part for the plant.
Yes, Shreya, you can go ahead.
All right, so I'll be using a detailer brush. This is a size 0 brush. Any size 0 brush or 000 brush would do. And I'll just add a little bit of water. We want the paint to be a little flowy. And I'll start painting. I'll start making random branches. Which shade is this? This is the same shade that we used for painting this part of the wall. You let me know if you want me to zoom a little. Just bring down the camera a little closer.
This is fine, Shreya. I think it's visible.
I'm painting random branches. And I'll just make the shadows of the flowers too. So just using the same brush, I'll just, using small strokes, I'll make the flowers. Basically, these are the shadows for the flowers that we'll be painting. These are the shadow part. The process is same for acrylic paints and poster paints too. You just need to blend these colors nicely, and that is it. You can add more flowers for the shadows, like you can add more shadows for the flowers, but I guess I'll just keep it like this. And What color did you use for your shadow? I used yellow ochre, mix it with a little burnt umber and white. These are the 3 shades that I used for making this shade. For the branches, you need black. For the branches, for the shadow part or the original plant part? Just let me know once, because for the shadow part, the shade is same for everything. Like this is basically the shadow, right? And the color that we'll be using is same. And for the original like plant part, we will, for the stems, we will use black and just white. These are the only 2 shades for the plant part. Shadow of branch. Okay, so for this you need to mix white, yellow ochre and burnt umber. If you don't have burnt umber, then you can use any brown shade and mix add a little bit of black. Don't add too much of black, because we want the color to look like, it is basically a shadow. So we just want a darker version of the shade that we used previously for the wall. Are gouache and poster colors same? Yeah, they are almost the same. For making the branches, I'll just use black shade, black color, and I'll just start painting random branches. Just make random branches. There is no order of painting. Just paint random branches. We just want the paint, the floral part to look a little bit of natural and realistic. So I'm just painting very random branches. Joshika, can you repeat your question once again? I didn't really get your question. Let me know if I'm a little fast. I'll wait for you guys. What is the shade for the original branch? This is a simple black color. Just a black color. Alright, I'll just wait for you guys. What did you use for the left side branches? This is the shadow part, right? So the same color. I used the same color for the branches as this one. I'll just show you the shade. I'll just make the shade again and show it to you. If you have any, like if you're having any confusion, just give me a minute. Since I don't have another palette right now, I'll just use a white paper and I'll show you how to make this shadow part. Okay, the shade that I used for the shadow part. So for this, you just need yellow ochre. Okay, this is a normal yellow ochre shade. I hope it is visible. This is a yellow ochre shade. Just add a little bit of burnt umber. Now burnt umber is basically a brown shade, and if you don't have burnt umber, don't worry, you can use any brown shade and add a little bit of black to it, and add a little bit of white. Okay, so this is the shade. This is how I made the shade for the shadow part, and this is the same shade that I used for making the branches and for this part of the wall where you can see the shadow. Shall I continue with painting the branches? All right. So basically this is the original plant part. Okay, so for the branch, I'm just using a simple black shade. And I'll just make random branches here. Yeah, I'll just zoom in a little. I don't know how to zoom in here, but I'll just try to kind of bring the camera a little closer. I hope it is visible now. All right. How to blend both side in shadow and wall. If you're using gouache or poster paints, then once you're done applying the colors, you can just run a wet flat brush over the part where you want the two colors to be blended, and you can simply just run your brush and your colors will be blended. But if you're using acrylic paints, then Make sure the paint is still wet while you are blending, because once the paint is dried, it will be very difficult for you to blend. Maybe you'll have to go over and paint another layer to blend the two colors. Do we have to make branches randomly or exact like shadows? Randomly, just to make sure that it looks kind of, kind of same. This part, like you can see the part where there are a less number of branches, basically the main branch, you can kind of replicate the same exact way. Otherwise you can just paint randomly. I'm painting randomly. You can paint the branches randomly. It's okay if you don't replicate the exact shadow part. All right, so once I'm done painting the branches, what I'll do is we will start making the white flowers. Basically, this is a gypsophilia plant. So you might have seen such plants around you, or maybe in bouquets. So these are basically filler flowers, and these are very aesthetic. They look very cute, and these are just a branch, like a small cluster of white flowers. Um, this is how we will paint the white baby's breath flowers. I'll just take white paint. I squeezed out a little bit of white paint, and for making the flowers I will be using a detailer brush, and I'll randomly make white dotted sort of flowers. I'll just use the brush and make small dots to represent the flowers. Show the reference once. Yeah, sure. This is the reference. Just make a random cluster of white florals. Just make dots over the branches. And in the same way, I'll be painting more white flowers. Somewhere the flowers will be lesser in number, and somewhere in some places the white cluster of flowers will be more. I haven't used masking tape. Is it okay? Yeah, sure, no worries at all. It's completely it's completely optional. It's your choice. If you want, then you can use a masking tape. Otherwise, it's completely okay. I'll make a few more branches here and there. And to give a little more detail, I'll just use the burnt umber shade. I'll take the burnt umber shade and just a second. I don't have any clean palette, otherwise I would have shown you. Alright, I'll just mix the shade here on a white paper. So this is a burnt umber shade. I'll just mix white with it. We will get a very light burnt umber shade. This is the shade we'll be using this shade to kind of, add a little more depth into the flowers and to make it a little more realistic. So just a little bit of burnt umber shade and white. I'll just add few small dots here and there over the flowers to make it a little realistic. You can add as many flowers as you want. I'll just add few more You can leave it like this, and or else if you want, then you can make few more branches. It's completely your wish. You can add few more branches here and there. I'll keep it like this only. I won't be adding any more branches or any more flowers. Thank you so much. I'll just remove the masking tape. This is the reference, and this is what we made today.